In today's video, I'm going to be painting up a Barmaid from the Pathfinder Battles WizKids range. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with some greenskin here, and we're going to be using this to paint up our Barmaid's dress. And the good thing about these miniatures is they're already pre-primed, so we don't have to worry about any of that. So just thinning down the paint just a little bit, and we want to make sure we get a good coverage everywhere. As you can see, the greenskin looks a little bit thinner here than when I showed it in the bottle, and that's just because I've thinned it down a little bit with water. So don't worry about that, because what we're going to do is once we've gone over with this first layer, is wait for it to dry and then come over with the second layer, so we get that rich, vibrant green color that we want to get from here. And the reason why I thin it down is, especially in this miniature here, is she has a lot of folds and wrinkles in her dress, and the easiest way to get that without losing any detail of all the folds and wrinkles is to just thin the paint down just a little bit so we can get into all those areas. And then coming over with that second coat is really going to add the color in there. So that's why we do that. Okay, so once we have her dress all painted up and nice and done, we're going to come in now with some Elven Flesh. I'm going to be using this, of course, for her flesh tone. And I'm going with Elven Flesh because I want her to be a quite light-skinned woman here, so the Elven Flesh is really good for that. It's a lot lighter than a usual flesh color. It's very, very bright and pale. I'm going for a red-headed girl here, and red-headed girls usually have lighter skin, so that's why we're going with Elven Flesh rather than I usually do with Barbarian Flesh or something like that. So, of course, just making sure we get a nice, good coverage everywhere. And don't forget, if it looks a little bit thin, it's because I want to come over with a second coat. Okay, so once we have our skin all painted up, what we're going to do now is coming in with some matte white, and we're going to be using the matte white to be doing the whites of her eyes. So this is going to be a very tricky step, but I've come in here with a very small brush, as you can see, and I'm just going to be dotting it into the area where her eye sockets are, because she has a nice sculpted face in here, and you can really see the where the eye's supposed to go. So just filling in there and waiting for it to dry before we move on to the next step, which is going to be adding in the pupils. Okay, so once those areas in the eyes are done, we're going to come in now with some black. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting the black on just a little dot on the end of a pin here. And I've just got a drawing pin here that you can see here. And it makes a really good sort of fine point for the eyes. A little bit easier to do than using the paintbrush, which can sometimes bend a little bit, and you can get the shape of the eye a little misshapen from how you want it. So this is the easy way that I found, and it was actually recommended to me by one of you guys in the chat, so big thanks for helping me step up my skills on doing eyes on miniatures. Okay, so once we have the eyes painted in, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to come in with some dragon red and oak brown. And what I'm going to be doing is mixing this in a pretty much a 50-50 mix to darken that red down a lot, give it a bit of a browner tone in there, because I didn't want a completely really bright red here. It's just a little too unrealistic for me, so adding in that brown is going to give it a more realistic sort of appearance and color. So now remember, we're going over again with the two coats with this, so we can get into all those hair details that are nicely sculpted in there without having to sort of really splodge it on and lose some of those nice details that we've got on the miniature in those parts. Okay, so once we have her hair all painted in, we're going to come in now with just the ordinary oak brown. And what we're going to be doing with the oak brown is we're just going to be painting up the serving tray she has on there. So we want to make sure we get a good cover, avoiding in the areas where we have her fingers painted up there. And there's a lot of little utensils and bowls and plates of food and stuff on this serving platter as well, so just trying to avoid a little bit of them, because we're going to come in with some other colors there to really brighten that up and make it look like she's actually serving something. Okay, so once we have her serving tray all painted up, what we're going to do now is come in with some leather brown, and we're going to be using the leather brown to be painting up actually just the little cups you can see here on her serving tray. I've just gone with some brown, because I want to make the one she's holding in her hand really stand out, and I think wouldn't have everything completely metal. I'm going for sort of more those old wooden style jugs that you see in movies and stuff like that, as well as the little bit of, I think it's bread, I'm not 100% sure what it is there. Just giving it a nice base color overall to lighten it all up. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing after that is we're going to come in now with some oily steel, and we'll be using the oily steel to be painting up her nice tankard that she has in her other hand here, showing prominently, which is why I wanted to go with the silver. Now, by all means, you could put the other 2 cups that she has on her serving tray in the silver as well, but I wanted this one to stand out, be special, so you sort of focus on that, follow her face along that same line, and I'm just going to be painting up the little bowl in here silver as well, rather than the 2 cups, just so you get that little bit of pop of detail on that colour there on the serving tray. Okay, so we're going to come in with some khaki now. I'm going to be using the khaki to be painting up the little bit of bread that she has on her serving tray. I'm not sure if it's 100% supposed to be bread, but I'm going to paint it as bread anyway, and the khaki colour is going to be a nice, good colour for that, for some nice fresh bread that she's going to be serving up. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to come in now with some Vallejo colour ivory, and we're going to be using this ivory in quite a few places. So first up, we're going to be using it to be painting it just on the inside of all the little cups here, because we want it to have some nice frothy ale that she's going to be serving up to the patrons at the bar, as well as we also want to use the ivory to paint up her, what do you call them again? Painting up her apron, that's the word I was looking for. Painting up the apron as well. We want to give that a nice good colour with the ivory there, making sure to avoid anywhere that we've painted over in the green. Now, it probably will take a few layers of paint to put this on, especially if you've had a little bit of green spill over like I have, and we're painting over white, so it's quite a hard colour to cover over anything in this. But just make sure you spend your time really going into all the little areas and getting a good coverage of the ivory. Okay, so once we have our apron painted up, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some dark sea grey. I'm going to be using dark sea grey to be painting up just the base of the bit she's standing on, just this little base here that you can see just underneath her dress. Be a little bit hard to see, I guess, because the dress basically covers over the top of that whole base, but we want to make sure we get that in there so you can really see the bottom of that dress and really amp up that little bit of detail just there. And one more part before I mention, just before we move on to the next step, I just painted her some little eyebrows and just a little smack of red on there for her lips, so we got that full face in there. I'm not sure if I showed it in the recording or not, or if I accidentally missed the recording on that part there. But anyway, we're going to come in now with some Army Paint Flesh Wash and give a nice wash over all her areas of her skin, making sure to give good coverage everywhere, as well as I'm going to be adding it to the hair as well to change up that fake redness from that hair that we're trying to avoid as well. Okay, so once that wash is completely dry, what we're going to be doing now is moving on with some agrax earthshade. And with the agrax earthshade, we're pretty much going to be covering over the entirety of the rest of the miniature now. So we want to go hard over the apron, the dress, all over the stuff that's on her serving platter, giving a real good nice coat everywhere, making sure it really gets into all those cracks in there. But we don't want it too much, as I've showed it here, because I'm still moving the wash around. We don't want it to have complete black or really, really dark brown into those folds. We want to try and avoid too much of that. So all you have to do with that is come in with an empty brush, and the brush will just soak up all that wash in there as well. Okay, so once all those washes are dried, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be doing some highlighting. So grabbing our previous colors that we've used here, as you can see, and what we're going to be doing is just going over different sections of the model and picking out all the high points on the miniature. So what I'm going to do here is start off with some ivory, and this miniature has really, really nice folds and really big creases in there, so it's actually really nice and easy to see the areas where we want to have these highlights on. So you can see me just here picking them out on these big folds, as well as I've put a little bit too much wash on the apron and it's dirtied up a lot. Now this could be a good look if you want her to have a really stained and dirty looking apron, which is another idea I was thinking of, but I'm going to have a reasonably clean apron to really give off that nice color pop. So I've just gone over some of those areas of the wash and tidied them up with the white. And of course, a good idea as well with this is we want to get over those high pointed areas that we have with the green here to really show off that we've got the sun sort of bouncing off all these high points of the dress here as well. Just really making sure we get those high points on the fold. This is actually a really good miniature, I would say, for people who are new at painting highlights on miniatures. I'm still reasonably new at it, and you can see that there's quite a lot of high points and easy places on miniatures where you can see on this one that we want to have a lot of the light catching. So just here on the arm, those folds on the dress, it's got some really nice easy spots to do this. So this is a nice miniature for doing that type of stuff. And with that, we've completed painting up our Barmaid miniature from the Pathfinder Battles WizKids range. I hope this has been helpful, informative for you, trying to give off that realistic effect with our Barmaid here, trying to make her really look like she's a nice, important girl, giving her the attention she deserves. So if you see her in a tavern, it's going to really stand out. So I hope this miniature has been cool for you to watch, whether you're following along or you just enjoy watching me paint up some cool minis. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.